Kellen Moore, the perfect New Orleans Saints head coach hire. Ladies and gentlemen, our friend Russ Jackson is the backdrop. Okay. Your boy, face the franchise, the number one, most watched, most listened to superstar. Going to react along the way, and I can't freaking wait because this headline, this title, makes me feel all warm and fuzzy. Because it wasn't too long ago. It was right around Super Bowl week when I was still debating if the Saints should get Big Mike McCarthy, or if they should get Kellen Moore. We haven't even played a game yet. And look at the state of the New Orleans Saints. Look at where we are right now, just energy-wise, just vibes-wise. Look at where this team is, just identity-wise, just culture-wise. It has not been that long. This time last year, 12 months ago, Dennis Allen, Darren Rizzi, Clint Kubiak, Derek Carr, all of that was yet to take place. Kubiak was awesome, but that whole era was yet to take place. My, oh my, oh my, oh my, oh my, oh my. How the turntables have turned.
Kellen Moore is proving that he is absolutely the head coach that the New Orleans Saints need right now, and he's doing it quickly.
Yes.
And he's doing it in a variety of different ways. I want to start off with what he's doing on the field, because that's what's going to translate to wins and losses most immediately. I like what the New Orleans Saints have done so far this offseason. I have some questions about whether or not they could have done more in terms of improving their roster, but you've heard that for months and months at this point. I think the biggest thing for me is that the Saints flipped their coaching staff entirely, but then really relied on kind of smart investments in free agency, but also mostly on young talent. The NFL draft where they got their quarterback, undrafted free agency, all that, to really bring in the new faces on their roster. No big
I'll let them keep going.
Big splash signings, stuff like that. They did.
The greatest lie the devil ever told was that the big splash free agent signing is what it's all about. What it's all about is the draft. What it's all about is bringing in young players. What it's all about is developing those players, building out your roster, cheap contracts. We all know the song and dance. Okay. I push back on the idea that the Saints have not bettered their roster because they brought in 9 draft picks. They signed Justin Reed. Okay. They whole new coaching staff. They bring back all the injured players. All right. All the injured players that didn't play last year, they're now playing. When you quantify all that, we're talking about somewhere in the neighborhood of 15 to 20 pseudo new additions to this team. That as far as like watching the team, as far as watching this team play, it's somewhere around that 15 to 20 number of like, whoa. This is different than last year. This is different. Kelvin Banks at left tackle, different. Eric McCoy, different. Trevor Penning at left guard, different. Tulisa Fuaga at right tackle, different. Even Cesar Ruiz, different. Alvin Kamara on the field, different. Whatever quarterback, different. The system, different. Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed, Brandon Cooks, different. Quincy Riley, different. Justin Reed, different. Danny Stutzman, different. Whoever ends up playing defensive tackle, different. Like, all of it is there. All of that is different. And yeah, it's not a quote-unquote big free agent splash signing, but when you talk about upgrading to a certain extent what this team was like last year to the tune of 15-ish to 20-ish players, that's a big difference. Oh, while getting the cap figured out, while getting younger, while the contracts and the older players and the retirees and whatnot start to trickle away.
Bring in some good talent, signing Justin Reed, bringing Will Clapp back to New Orleans, going out there and re-signing and extending Chase Young to keep him around for around another 3 years.
Yeah.
I think they've made good moves to begin to kind of lay the building blocks and the foundation for what that roster will eventually turn into, which I expect a big time turnover going into 2025 in terms of old faces on their way out, new faces on their way in, all those other things. Or I shouldn't say old faces, I should say familiar faces on their way out.
Old.
New faces on their way in.
We're all friends here.
So maybe you'll see a little bit more changeover on the roster next season. But the other things that I like that they've done is that they've effectively said, look, the Saints like what they have on the roster. They just didn't believe that the coaching staff that they had prior to this one took advantage of the talent that was on the roster. Plus, there were injuries and things like that. So they must believe in this roster. And now they bring in a coach who brings in a slew of other coaches that ends up helping to move this team forward. A lot of innovative, forward thinkers, a lot of common sense thinkers. Oh, a player doesn't do this well. Well, let's not ask him to do that and let's teach him how to do that. But instead, let's ask him to do the thing that he does know how to do well. Speaking with wide receiver coach Keith Williams, who was with the previous regime and one of the few holdovers coming into this new coaching staff, he talked about how he had offers elsewhere but wanted to stay here in New Orleans, loves the wide receiver room, and mentioned that one of the things that they really like, that he really likes about the way that Kellen Moore is kind of running things over on the offensive side, is that if they believe that a player can do something and he's not doing it, then they'll teach him how to do it and then have him do it. It sounds so rudimentary. It sounds so obvious. It sounds so basic, but it wasn't always that way, and it's not always that way in the NFL. Sometimes coaches have systems and roles that they go out there and they get players to, and they try to take that square peg and stick it in a round hole and hope that they can make it all work out. And so they can't change the mold. So they're not changing the mold of the role. And instead, they're trying to change the mold of the player. Whereas Kellen Moore, Brandon Staley, I'd go so far as to say highlight Phil Galliano in this as well. Those guys and this coaching staff across all positions are very much focused on changing the mold of the role to fit the shape of the player and the skill set of the player. So little things like that.
Crazy verbiage.
So I think that from a on-field perspective, you can kind of see the vision of where this team wants to go. The
great word. I'm not doing Ross any favors here.
Innovative.
The vision is there. Like, there is so much. You look at a team like the 49ers, the Rams, the Eagles even, the Ravens, whatever, the Chiefs. Yes, they have good players, but they also have an identity. They also have they know who they are. They know what they're trying to be. They have a system. They know exactly what that vision is. Last couple of years, really since Sean Payton left, the Saints have had they haven't had anything even remotely resembling a vision. They could have done all the ayahuasca in the world and they weren't having visions. Okay. Not only, and this is similar to the Clint Kubiak upgrade over Pete Carmichael, but it is almost impossible to quantify the upgrade going from Dennis Allen and his regime to Kellen Moore and his regime. Doesn't even matter with the wins and losses and what all that's. Just the infrastructure alone is night and day, or day and night, as Kid Cudi would say. Like, and that's the part where I keep saying this because it is the off season, and a lot of none of this matters until they start hitting. All right? None of this matters until the pads come on. None of this matters until week 1 or whatever. And I say au contraire. It does matter. You have to build. You have to build that identity. You have to build all that. That has to be a part of your team. That has to be a part of things. Sean Payton built that for 20 years in New Orleans, right? I mean, not 20 years, but rounding up. He built that identity, that culture. We knew what we were getting with the Saints week in, week out, year in, year out. Even if the results weren't always there. We knew what they were going to try and do. It is important what Kellen Moore is doing right now. The paintball outing, the community building, what he's doing with Trevor Penning, the vision, the identity, all that stuff. That matters just as much as can Tyler Shough handle a blitz from the Chargers during a joint practice or whatever. This absolutely does matter.
Way that this team wants to move forward. The other thing that I like that he's doing on the field is that he's working and focusing on keeping his players healthy. No 11 on 11s. The reason why he hasn't done any 11 on 11s is because he's trying to get his guys to training camp. He's trying to get his guys on the field at the beginning of the season. So it's been all 9-on-7s. It's been all 7-on-7s. Anytime that they do kind of full team walkthroughs, they do it without helmets. Why? Because helmets encourage contact. He wants to keep the physicality down. He wants to reduce the contact so that these guys aren't taking on these little micro bumps and bruises and things like that end up weakening them by the time, or impacting them by the time they go through this break, which isn't a break for the players. They're going to be training like crazy to get ready for training camp. Yep. And then they get into training camp and they've suffered all these little nicks and bruises and bumps and all this other stuff. And they're that much weaker, or that much more, let's say, ailed by the time they get to training camp, that you end up with all these little more major injuries that take place during training camp that we've seen impact the Saints over the course of the past few years. So I like what they're doing from the coaching staff standpoint. I'm okay with what they're doing from the roster standpoint, knowing that it's a multi-year process on the roster. I like what they're doing in terms of how they're handling the OTA and minicamp practices. And I also like the fact that the Saints canceled the final practice of minicamp on Thursday. And I've seen a lot of people say, oh, well, this is a poverty franchise now. They're not taking things seriously. Let me tell you something. If the difference between the Saints having a winning season and the losing season in the regular season is one minicamp practice.
Poverty franchise, by the way, is skyrocketing up my list of red flag terminology. It's up there with hospital balls. It's up there with all that. Poverty franchise is the way up.
A lot of other things have gone wrong. No one's going to be looking at the results of the 2025 season and going, man, well, if they would have just practiced that one day during minicamp in that non-contact, non-full speed, non-team drill environment, they would have been Super Bowl champions. No one's looking back at the end of the season and going to even remember that this team canceled their final minicamp practice, except for, of course, you and I.
Yes. Well,
so
I will not.
Why I like it, team building,
what's going on?
camaraderie, relationships, all those other things. That has been a major focus for Kellen Moore and this team so far this offseason. From paintball as a team to helping to rebuild the Trinity Community Center in Hollygrove, to strengthening the connection between the players, the coaches, and the community. Trinity Community Center, as an example of that, opening minicamp, canceling a minicamp practice, but not the one that fans were invited to. And then they cancel the minicamp practice. Why? So they can go into a team building, team outing at 504 Golf. Awesome. Great way to spend a day. So how do they do it? They held a 3-point contest in the team meeting room. They have like a little mini hoop over in the team meeting room, same meeting room that we were in during like the draft and all that kind of stuff. We've seen it. And Juwan Johnson was the captain of the offense. I suppose that the offense won the offense versus defense 3-point contest that they held. And then Juwan Johnson was told, pick a player. If that player sinks the 3-pointer, you all get a day off of practice. He picked Hunter Deckers, who has a high school basketball background. Hunter Deckers sinks the 3-pointer. Bang, they're going to 504 Golf for the day.
There you go, Hunter. A lot of pressure on
Hurrah,
Hunter.
very fun. Like, even down to the way that they learned that they were going to get the day off, it was fun. It was engaging. It was competitive. There was team building. There was relationship building. There was trust. There was celebration. All of this other stuff. There was a player coming through for the rest of the roster. It's team building. Look at the fact that the Saints are going to go to Irvine again at the end of training camp as they go into the preseason. The Saints will open the training camp at the Metairie facility here in New Orleans. Kellen Moore being very clear about that over and over again. We're staying at home. We're going to be at home. We're going to be at home, but also going to go away. This wins on both sides and both angles for Kellen Moore. He's a part of bringing training camp back home. I'm sure some of those practices will be open to the community. I'm guessing we'll find out, but I don't see why they wouldn't be, considering minicamp had open days. And then what does he do? Takes players from August 6th to August 15th to California, where they're in the same hotel, where they're having dinner together, where they're hanging out with one another, where they're going and doing things together, where they're all focused on what the task is at hand at that facility, where they'll be at UC Irvine, my alma mater, Zot.
There you go.
You win on both sides. You strengthen the connection between the team and the community by keeping the team in the community and welcoming the community.
I bet on a ton of UC Irvine college basketball. Cal State Fulton, but the Titans, UC Irvine, Fullerton, man, those games, because that's always like the getaway game. It's always like, oh, this game's tipping off at 9:30, 10 o'clock. But yeah, I watch a lot of of bad West Coast basketball.
Community to visit your team, and you get the team outside so that you can get them in a place where they're all together and continue to build that camaraderie in those relationships. Kellen Moore is...
Yeah, Jim Harbaugh was famous for doing this during the season. So Jim Harbaugh would do these like mini camps during the season where if they had a trip, if they had like a weird scheduling situation, he wouldn't come back home. He would go play the game, and then they would go to like a neutral site, stay there for like a week, and then go play the next game. And he would treat that as kind of its own like camaraderie building thing. So some coaches do that, what Kellen's doing right here, in the actual season. It's always important to pay attention to.
It's proving that he was absolutely the right choice for the New Orleans Saints where they are in their lifespan right now. Will that equate to wins and losses during the regular season? We'll have to see. But with what they need right now, Kellen Moore, perfect. No notes. Coming up next.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of what we talked about with the whole Mike McCarthy thing, where the Saints desperately needed new. They desperately needed new ideas and a new way of doing things and to separate themselves from the Sean Payton era. It has not been that long, again, since Sean Payton was running the show here. There was a lot of layover from Sean Payton to now, where some of those ideas and all that was still trickling in, and we were still leaning on that. We desperately needed the next chapter of the Saints story to start. And I don't think it would have started with someone like Mike McCarthy. He would have just kind of done what he's always done. He's a retread coach, or any of these like retread coaches. You know, like we needed someone to come in here and be as innovative as possible, new ideas, new whatever, and start the next this whole next chapter, this next era. And that's exactly what we thought Kellen Moore would do. And that's exactly what he has done. Young, innovative, all those things. This is one of those moments where the writing was on the wall. We were seeing things clear, and we were loud about it, told everybody who would listen. And as of right now, couldn't be happier with how Kellen Moore has done as the head coach, setting this foundation, setting the culture, doing all that stuff. Don't get it twisted, ladies and gentlemen. It does not mean I'm going to say the Saints are going to be a 10-win team. I can say all of that and still say, yeah, this seems like a 6-7 win team to me. Somewhere in there. Like, those things can be true at the same time. We don't have to take this, positivity, excitement, whatever, immediately go to 11, 12 wins. You can if you want, but I always say it, but enjoy the journey. I really do feel like we are at 2005, and things have been bad, but you can see the finish line. You can see what's happening. You can read between the lines, right? And I predicted this would happen. I predicted that the more that the media started spending time around the team, around Kellen, around the facility, at practice, at minicamp, at training camp, the more they would see what's happening. And the more they would feel that change. And then everything would shift. And everything would shift from doom and gloom and PTSD and Dennis Allen and Michael Thomas, and maybe we should trade for Pierre Thomas. Maybe we should trade for Jimmy Graham. Maybe we can go get Rob Ryan. Like, instead of all that, very quickly, I predicted we'd all be moving forward and would all be, okay, I see what's happening here. I don't, whatever. Michael Thomas was cool. Jameis Winston's cool. All these players were cool. And in the rear view. Trey Hendrickson was in the rear view. We're moving forward. It's Kellen Moore's time now. It's Kellen Moore's New Orleans Saints now. And in a couple of months, a short amount of time, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to see how this all works out. But I'm loving it. I'm thrilled. I wish football was here. We're like 94 days or something away. I can't wait for preseason. I can't wait for all of this. So dog days of summer are here, no doubt. But we're going to get through this. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Get on down in the comments below. I'll see you in the next video.